In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
A pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The voice of spirit. The voice of spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, very warm welcome to the show. I've got a lovely guest on today, Nancy Weber. She's a psychic detective and she's had decades of experience in doing that work, but also many more as a medium. She often gets requests about doing psychic detective work, and I know it's something that's quite popular and people do ask lots of questions about it. And one of the things that she says is that if you can stay completely centered, keeping your emotions in check until after the work, despite the family that may be frantic, the scene that may be beyond gruesome, hold an item that was once owned by a sweet, gentle soul, brutally murdered, etc., then that is something that you need to consider. I think a lot of people don't understand that when you connect, it's not only sights and sounds, but smells. And it can be very, very uncomfortable and very, very unsettling if you're not prepared for that. As Nancy herself says, law enforcement officers in the midst of scary stuff, medical personnel, firemen, etc., they all get to see stuff that most of us really wouldn't. So it does take a certain kind of person to do that. She has published a book, The Life of Psychic Detective and Psychic Medium, and that's available on Amazon. So if that's something that you want to read, and I would highly recommend that you do, then that is something that you can connect with her. You can also connect with her on Facebook and on her site. If you want private sessions, then you can do that through her site. It's something she has limited, but certainly it's still available. So without much further ado, hi Nancy, how are you?
Oh, I'm listening, Leo. I'm fine, thank you. I was listening to everything going, I love your accent, but it's not an accent on your part of the pond.
No, it's so quite normal, or as some people might say, quite common. But there you go. I can't go posh for anybody, Nancy. It's just not in me.
Fine. I am and my end of it, I am from Brooklyn. So, yes, I fully understand your terminology. Thank you.
Sorry.
One little comment. The book is not out yet, except in the U.S. on my website. And I'll talk about that later. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I have some special things for your listeners.
Oh, fantastic. And that's really great. So one of the first questions I do tend to ask is how you discovered your mediumship and psychic skills and at what kind of age? Because I've done some reading up on you, but of course not everything is there. I feel you're a very natural medium and it's just started from very young. So maybe talk us through some of that.
Well, because it's you, Leo. Because it is you. I don't generally talk about how it got started. I will. So I can remember being in a crib and a man I didn't have a name for him at that time. He was swarthy skin. He was black hair, thick black hair, big beard, dark eyes, and I loved him. And he was my friend. And he would tell me things. So one day I remember I must have been about year and a half or so by then. Any thought I had, he would respond if I had kind of a question in my mind, like, what's that? And he would tell me. So my mom was in another room. I could see her talking to a friend, and I looked and saw in the belly something, and I didn't know what it was in the woman. So I thought, what's that in there? And the man looked at me and he said, that's a baby. I was so excited. I ran out into the room and I looked at the woman. I pointed at her belly and I go, baby. And she turned to my mother and said, how does she know? The doctor just told me. I haven't even told my husband yet. And my mother said, go to your room.
Usual response, isn't it? No meals for a week. Go there.
Right. So that was my entree into the other world and into this world of reactions or responses to something I thought was, just my friend telling things. So when I go to shop anywhere and there are children talking to their guides or their playmates on the other side or whatever, and their mothers are going, cut it out. I go over and play with the kid. And try because I know what it's like. Yeah. However, that man was with me till I was about 13 and came back when I was 31. Oh. Isn't that interesting? 13 and then 31.
Yeah. I know myself, I had a gap from roughly 11 and I understand now it was because puberty was kicking in. There were an awful lot of changes. We're highly empathetic, highly sensitive, and we don't need the extra burden of all the hormones and that. Yeah.
Well, I had it in a different way, not with him, and not. I would see people and know when they were dying, friends, family, all along. I would get bursts of information about people I knew or didn't know all along, only I didn't consider anything other than if that's possible, that I knew those things. I would hear the radio a week before the news, and my mother would go, that's not true. And then a week later it was word for word. She'd look at me and I'd go running out to play. So I think, leave me alone on that because you think it's weird and I don't. I just think this is the way I have stuff. So I didn't think of it at all until I entered nursing. But I'm jumping into something with you. Okay? Do you know who the book Witness from Beyond, Ruth Mattson Taylor?
I do think I've read it sometime. I don't own a copy, I must be honest, but I do think I've read that, yes.
And it was A.D. Mattson who spoke through the clairvoyant Margaret Flavel Twiddell.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my mentor, Margaret.
Oh.
She came from the UK once a year, and when I was 10, I had a dream of her, and I didn't know it. I had no idea what it was. She was just sitting opposite me in the dream, and she said, now it's your turn to do the reading. And I woke up from the dream, thought, huh? And there was a mirror with a bunch of seashells. So when Margaret came the first time, I'm sitting with her for a reading in New York, upstate New York, and she's giving me this beautiful, spiritual, soul-filled, more practical also, very grounded, very practical. Yeah. And I looked at her and suddenly I remembered the dream, and she looked at me without me saying a word and she said, yes, now it is your turn. Oh. And that's how I knew. So I thought, oh, Leo, the UK, Margaret is, I miss her so.
Oh, bless. Is she still with us?
No, she's on the other side. Yeah.
I don't normally ask any questions at all, but as you were saying that, I just asked, and they said she's not. So I really hate to ask questions. I think it's one of those things that too many mediums do too much.
I love you. I love you. Thank you. thank you, because I have a I like just waiting and seeing if it's appropriate. And for me to be the channel or anything on anything, it doesn't mean I'm the one that should be connected to anything. Same thing with everything I do.
Yeah, and it's a thing of mine, and sometimes I'm a bit outspoken, and people don't like that. But my philosophy is, if you've got a question, ask the communicator. Don't say, why am I seeing a green door? Why have I got this? Why have I got that? Just ask them. That's what they're for.
Exactly. Well, it's so fascinating that you say that, because it is also so much is going on in this world that we really need everybody to care to dig deep inside and journey within and learn how to bridge the gap between being here and there. And we don't have that enough, I don't believe, in the West.
I absolutely agree, and I think you're right about the East. I think there is a totally different approach. I do find in places in certain parts of Asia, and people do forgive me for this. India, there are certain kind of rules, and it's bent a particular way, and it should just be open. I do feel that there's going to be a huge change in the world where this just opens up. And I was told that by my guide about 10 years ago. And we still got about 20 years or so before we kind of hit that. But yes, I agree with you. I think the ideal situation really is there are no mediums as such, because we're all connected, as you said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When people say, "So, are you a clairvoyant?" I go,
I am.
This, right?
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah.
You're everything. Once you can do one thing, why can't you do everything? What?
Exactly.
Nothing prevents anybody other than if I'm wearing glasses, so I don't see as sharply without them as somebody else. So it requires some tool. But everybody has the spectrum. Everybody has the light. Everybody has a soul. So I think it's everybody's job as a primary job. I think it's more important than going to school, personally, because this is a life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. I've had this conversation, strangely, 3 times this week now. I've been teaching on and off for about 25 years. And there was a student of mine that was almost deaf, very, very hard of hearing. So in circles, she used to sit very close to me. And she was quite concerned that she couldn't hear spirit. And I explained to her that the problem is you're trying to listen with your earthly material ears. Forget that. Try and hear clairaudiently. And it took her about a month or so, but then she could hear spirit clearly. And to me, when we pass over, if we've got missing limbs, if we're deaf, if we're blind, whatever it may be, when we're over, we're complete and we can see and we can hear. So I think for her originally, it was a bit of a wow moment, can I really hear spirit? But in the end, she did. And I think it's a wonderful thing. It's actually just reminded me, there was a guy, I can't remember where he lives. It may have been Australia. And he was completely blind. And what he started to do was produce a click vocally that was almost like sonar with the bat. And he could find his way round through that. And the human mind and capacity is so open, so inventive. And I think, if we're blind or we're partial seeing, why not tune into these wonderful gifts that we've got?
I think it's all, for me, when I look at people who are hesitant, it's about self-esteem. It's about fear of being rejected. It isn't about gifts at all. I believe everybody has the power, and it is more the rising up of themselves, regardless of circumstances, regardless of anything else. And it takes a slight risk. And also, like you did, sometimes it takes that other person who just coaxes them a little bit and gives them a little nudge and says, you can. Of course you can. So it's the guidance here and the guidance there, and they have to connect. So I feel like everything you're saying is we're acting like guides here for others to, come on, you can do it. If we can do it, you can do it. Certainly. And we just love it so much that we don't want to stop doing any of it. We're fascinated by all of it. And I think that's the only difference between gifted people who don't make it work, make it a job, so to speak, and gifted people who do. John, on our side of the ocean, Mama Ocean, I call her, John Holland makes it a job. He's always traveling. He's always writing. He's giving workshops all over. Everybody has a different way of approaching work. However, so many people I've met are so talented, so incredibly able, and all they need to do is apply it in a way that actually serves them well and the world well. Entertainers do that. Artists do that. Yeah. There's so many, inventors do that. Engineers can do that. My husband's an engineer who is a patent designer who got all the answers in his sleep.
I'm a firm believer in that. I also believe that from spirit, thoughts are sent out and they're generated in the ether. Because you sometimes read about inventions, and there's two people either side of the world who've come up with this marvelous thing that's either identical or very similar. And I think spirit sends us this stuff like that.
Well, it also sent you exactly the words I use all the time about that, too. That's so funny. Leo.
Sorry. I'm working overtime. I need to tone it down a little.
It's kind of like chicken or egg. Which one of us got it first? I think we both got it at the same time. I always say even Mozart. When you think of Mozart, and he said he heard the music and he played it. The world is given that universal pool of love in a variety of forms, from spirit, from the light, from God, from whatever anybody calls that which creates everything and knows far more than we do. And as long as we connect, we can get it. So I laugh. I think the same thing. I love it. Long before we had computers, the patent offices would say, same thing you just said. And I go, oh, this is very funny. Talking with you is like looking in a mirror.
Oh, bless you. Yeah. I think when man can learn to just accept it, and I think, governments all over the world, they accept it. I know the USA spends around 70 million a year on remote viewing and that kind of thing. So you've got that face of it. And the other face is, it's rubbish. It doesn't exist. Forget it. Put those thoughts away. Think
about that, though. Leo, think about why they do that. It's the same thing as anything else. They know it's real. They're afraid of it.
I think so. And I think one of the great shames is they think, we've got this. What can we do? Oh, you know what? We'll weaponize it.
Yes.
It's
right, exactly.
Yeah, and I think because of that, it's, we create weapons, secret weapons. It's all secret, so we'll hide it from the public. And I think one of the great things of our generation and the generation that's following is that secret will explode, and it will change the world.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I always think what's going on in this world today is the infections are broken open, and you're seeing the problem that the world has had for thousands of years and way back. I always think of the first cave with an earthquake and one person picks up a stone to the other. I like your cave better than mine. Mine was destroyed. I need yours. And I think that it takes a long time for everyone to calm down and allow themselves to be so capable and beautiful and soulful on this earth, because we're so used to being frantic and frightened and trying to control everything, the weather, everything we can. I mean, I look at it and go, well, one day we may learn. and there's a whole bunch from the Aquarian conspiracy by, I forget her name, don't remember. That was in the 70s. She wrote a book called The Aquarian Conspiracy on how the new Aquarian age and how people all over the world are going to start connecting and opening up centers of light. And it's here.
Absolutely. You know, I think the world came dangerously close to world peace during the 1969, 1970, you know, flower power. And there was peace and love. It's wonderful that you mentioned that musician, because I know myself, Jimi Hendrix was a medium. And we came so close to kind of world peace breaking out. And I think, you know, the dark side just couldn't take it and the whole thing was shut down. But we will get there.
So I have a comment for anyone listening. You just heard Leo a few times do something. I just heard driving back home from an acupuncturist, Watchtower with Jimi Hendrix. Oh. And there you go mentioning it. And so what happens, and we all know this, everybody who's got people they trust know that when we're an open conduit, we catch each other's thoughts, feelings, everything. We get to know who that person is quickly. The problem I find that exists, it's not really a problem. We need more solution than problem in looking at it, is that the broken trust does not get worked on enough by enough people yet so that they can trust anybody. Well, I trust myself in the presence of anybody. That's what I learned. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be accountable and responsible. It means I accept that wherever they're at, that's where they're at. I am not going to change my ability to trust myself I won't hide, I won't cover, that kind of thing. That's what you do. You are a mirror. So
yeah. Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. Now, if anybody wants to call in, you're quite welcome. It's 702-425-9230. You can get us on Skype, KCOR, and Twitter. And, of course, you can join us in the chat room. So if you want to ask Nancy a question, be my guest. We'll be straight back after this.
This is the voice of spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Toxins are everywhere, from the air we breathe to the food we eat and the water we drink. In a world where 80,000 known toxins and heavy metals threaten our very existence, how are you going to protect yourself and your loved ones? Introducing Pure Body Extra Strength, the world's first colloidal zeolite that helps trap and remove toxins as well as heavy metals from your body that are messing with your memory, clarity, sleep, and focus. Don't just take our word for it or the testimonials from our thousands of happy customers. Check out the hundreds of articles and case studies on the National Institute of Health website proving zeolite's powerful ability to remove toxins. For a limited time, listeners to KCOR will receive 10% off their first order. To get started, go to trypurebody.com and enter promo code RADIO10. Again, that's trypurebody.com. Toxic junk is all around us, but now you can take back control of your health and protect yourself by detoxing with Pure Body Extra Strength. You'll be on your way to sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic. Go to trypurebody.com right now and get started today.
You love them enough to do anything for them.
Mom, I need to be wiped.
Coming!
Including checking NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Gee, it's so quiet. Too quiet. Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now you're mine.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome. The Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. It's great. I think it's great. It's great. I think it's
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
We interrupt this program to annoy you and make things generally irritating.
At the end of the day, we turn the lights down in the KCOR studio.
Oh, sweet.
And crank up the hottest club songs from around the world.
This is the future.
The Grind, mixed by Tina Marie, your Vegas vixen of the high desert.
What about the body? What kind of body?
Good body. Nice body.
Every night from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pacific. The best 3 hours of commercial-free music.
New music first.
It's time to stand up and dance your ass off. The Grind, nightly and exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Come on, it's kind of hot.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, very, very warm welcome back, and I'm very pleased to have Nancy Weber on the show. And although this is radio, you know, being connected, we can see and we can see colours. And Nancy, I just want to say there is a wonderful, wonderful electric blue aura around you, and it's fascinating me as it's dancing about. So I just wanted to let you know that. So welcome back.
Oh, Leo, I'm smiling all over the place. That's my favorite color.
That would make sense. Yeah. Oh,
right.
Brilliant.
It is my absolutely favorite color. And I'm looking at yours, and you've got this emerald green as a healer all over you.
Yeah.
So it's, wow.
Oh, bless you. People do ask for healing, and we say prayers, etc. And bless you, and thank you for confirming that. We've got a mutual friend, Susan, and she's asked a question that I'm asked from time to time, because it has all kinds of interpretations and it has all sorts of connotations, and like what we do, people think, that's easy, I could do that, etc., etc. And the question that she asks is, can anyone become a psychic detective? So what are your feelings on that?
Yes and no. I will go with.
I often get that answer with people sometimes, and they go, now I have to explain.
Well,
it sounds like you're dodging a bullet, doesn't it?
No, I haven't dodged bullets. I work with bullets, actually. No, just being silly. So when it comes to work as a psychic detective, you have to back up and consider a few things within yourself first. I can look back and say that my love of mystery, which is something that most people have, we don't know, because we cannot ever resolve the mystery of the whole universe. We're still very curious people who want to be able to resolve something. So mystery is something I was always drawn to. Nancy Drew, which is the light stuff and means, oh, so nice, until you get to the real stuff. However, having been a nurse actually helped me tremendously know when you are working with anything tough, when you're working with anybody screaming in pain or horrible stuff or stinky smells and whatever else, you cannot show it to them. You cannot do that to them, because you are harming them by acting out and going, oh, that's not for me, I'm far too sensitive. So my comment about that line that I heard many times is, no, you're not. You're not sensitive to the other person. So that's a big difference. And if you are sensitive and empathic, you will not break down and get hysterical in front of the law enforcement, the families, the grieving families, the missing, at the MEs, at the autopsy, at an evidence room, at a crime scene, wherever you may go in life. If you want to work with crime, you have, I believe strongly, if you want one to feel safe and secure in it, you need to understand that you're a service, just like any other service. You are coming in service to others who are in great need, including the law enforcement officers. They can't afford to have a hysterical person or a very upset person work with them. And we're just part of a puzzle. We're not the answers. I look back at the cases and I can tell you, I've been to fresh crime scenes. I've held evidence. There's pretty much nothing. I've been to autopsies. There's nothing I haven't really seen. I get that. The issue, though, is, can you let go and take the risk and blurt out things like Leo does, like I do? Just blurt it out and then not get upset over anything you see while you're with everybody. Not that you're not upset later. We've got hearts.
Absolutely.
So just give me room when I'm finished, and I will either cry or dance, burn it off, or something. I will make a bridge for myself so that I can release. I use a lot of anointing in my process. I have found it helps me because of the frequency of the oils I use, and they harmonize with my spirit, my soul, my form. And I need to get through things without repercussions. So I don't break down when I'm working with anybody at all, ever. It's not my place to break down.
Yeah.
It's like anything else we do. We put our troubles aside, whatever it may be, go do the work. You want to pick up the troubles, go right ahead. You want to pick up the emotions about the case, go right ahead. Not with anybody in it. It's not their problem. So that's all it takes. The rest of it, as several of the officers I've worked with said, we either have 1,000 leads or no lead. We need something to go on. And Why not take something you're saying? So if that's true, then everyone who works with it, if you look at their histories, I don't know many. I've always been just very involved with what I do and my family and all the rest. I imagine that we all came to it differently. Like Laurie McCrary in the U.S., who finds missing bodies well and has for years. She's a nurse who married a detective, and that's how she got involved. I moved to a town where my son and I were going to take karate, and we signed up, and it turned out his instructor was a police officer and saw some written papers, a newspaper back in 1980 on something I had done for SPCA agents in our country. It's animal rescue agents. They were going to go to a home where somebody claimed that somebody hurt a dog or whatever. And I warned them that the son will be on top of the stairs with a shotgun. So they took police with them. And the guy was on top of the staircase with a shotgun. They arrested him. And unfortunately, he had killed his own dogs. Oh. And that made the local news. Mm-hmm. So being that way, the police officer knew, and she asked me about a case. And here's the key. When you have the opportunity, don't answer yes or no. Just answer why. Because she said, have you ever worked with the police? And I said, why? Yeah. I wouldn't commit either way because I wanted to know why. Yeah. And she said, well, we had a rape in town, and I immediately had an image and I shared it. Now, that's a succinct way of saying for everybody who listens, take the risk. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you get nothing. That just means you're authentic. That just means you're honest. And write it all down. Because we fool ourselves. Mm. Memory a year later, go back. Will it be as perfectly fresh and clear? Some will, most won't. So I took notes on all of it because you don't always get the results. And can you live with not knowing the answers? Can you live with helping out and never be told the answers? I've worked on at least 1,000 cases in 40 years, at least. And I can tell you, I don't know a lot of the answers until somebody reports it in a paper or somebody else comes and says, oh, so-and-so told me you helped on that case and that they were able to get blah, blah, blah. The only ones I really know are the ones I became close friends with.
Mm. And again, I think that's an important thing, isn't it? Because we don't do what we do for praise. You know, we're just happy to help. And if it helps, fantastic.
In a nutshell, you got it. That's it. Isn't that true of everything we do?
Yes, it is. Yes. And it certainly should be. And, you know, I mean, there are frauds out there, as we know. And you know, unfortunately, I think it's the frauds that sort of gain the headlines. And we sometimes get tainted with this. And we've got a regular caller on the line, Nell. And she's got a question. Hi, Nell. How are you?
Hi, Leo. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I've been looking at your website and I noticed you're an animal communicator. Can you tell me a bit more about that one?
Well, I think everybody is actually. Same way as Leo and I have been talking. People normally believe when they love an animal, whether it's a wildlife in the woods or a pet of theirs or somebody's, they believe they talk with them. And usually they're right. It is getting feedback in some manner. And for pets, it's kind of, you have to really observe and watch. Like one of the things I like doing is talking to an animal walking in a street. Don't speak out loud. Just send a question to the dog or whatever. Usually it's a dog that we see. How old are you? And whatever number comes up in you, if you can have a conversation with that person with the dog, you ask them, and just say, oh, is your dog around 4 years old? No, he's 7. Okay, so that wasn't true. And what we're doing is really teaching ourselves when we're in the right place and when we're not. It is really a skill set that we grow when we're willing to get feedback, whether it's good or not. So I take that risk. And I love mentally imagining that my soul and their soul can communicate, whether it's a horse, dog, ferret, it won't matter, a raven. I love talking with animals because I believe we are all connected. So we take the commitment and the belief first, and then we act on it enough times that we start getting here and there some feedback. Like if you see a bird in a tree and you wish it well and you send it love and pray that they have a good life, and then suddenly the bird takes flight right in front of you. So it can come in many forms. And I thank you for that question, because it is the most fascinating thing when you discover how connected we all actually are. That's such a beautiful question.
It's just that I've got 2 dogs, and I sometimes wonder what crosses our minds when I'm working with them or teaching them or they're sitting in my lap curled up. I just sometimes wonder what goes through their heads. That was all.
Well, it's simple. You ask them mentally. Don't speak out loud. Just picture. It's an emotional thought. You have to fill it with your own emotions. Send it over. And whatever you feel, sense, or see, or hear, anything, take it as real. So it may be very odd, or it may be nothing, and it may be an hour later, you're walking around, you start thinking of that pet, and you start thinking of something you hadn't thought of before. That's the transmission. I think of it as their language, your language, and you have to get, it's like learning any other new language. Mm-hmm. So I think you can really get to know a lot more just by trusting yourself more about it. And you never can tell.
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry, go on now, sorry.
I have one last question. Like I say, I've been I didn't think I was going to get to you tonight, but I did. I was looking at your website, and one other thing you do is a medical intuitive. Yes. And I find that quite intriguing, as I'm a spiritual healer myself, so a medical intuitive. And I'm kind of going, okay, I want to know about that one.
Well, I think everybody, the term came about, I guess, when Carolyn Meese came about with her books, at least in the U.S. I have always been a medical intuitive. I just didn't know it. As a nurse, I sometimes could see things. What I like doing, because I work in the holistic field and I love the idea of spiritual healing like you do, I think that's fabulous. Because we don't have to know all the medical terms. We don't have to know all those. I look at chakras more. I look at the energy field, and I look for the roots of things, the emotional, the history. And sometimes you can, and that's how I got into past lives. So all of a sudden I'd start seeing something that was almost ancient in somebody and troubling for them, and looking at how that can be made a difference. So for me, medical intuitive is looking at the whole person, just like anyone who I believe does spiritual healing. We're looking at emotions, physical, mental, spiritual, and the connections, all of them, and how that presents itself as sometimes physical issues, mental issues, mind, body, all one. I love doing that.
When I work as a healer, what I see is like a clear form of a body with bits flashing at me, and that's telling me, you have to go here, you have to go there, you have to do this bit, or you have to do that bit. It's like, remember the science museum, you push the button, this organ flashes, or that bit flashes, or that joint flashes. That's what I get when I'm working as a healer.
You remind me of one that occurred that might be of use for you to... the more you get to know things, sometimes it doesn't matter and you won't need to know all the details. You're doing the work naturally, as I did to begin with. my nursing field and other things came in and played. But what you're talking about for me is the etheric energy, the body double, when it has sparks. Just like you said, when I've seen them, I remember seeing one on somebody, and I also got an image at the same time of a car and a neck pain. And so I said, "You were in a car accident. Your neck got hurt." She said, "Yes." I said, "Huh." And then I didn't see, I had just had a feeling, words popped up, that a gallbladder was not any longer in her body. And I asked that, and she said, "Yes." I said, "Was that a year after the accident?" She said, "Yes." But I kept seeing that flashing light right off the side of the neck. I called the friend who happened to be a psychiatrist, and I said, "Edith, why would I see that?" And she said, "That's the vagus nerve, and that's the nerve, the largest nerve to the liver, gallbladder, and stomach." So her neck pain problem injured the nerve that injured the gallbladder that caused the surgery. And that's medical intuitive, and that's, you're doing exactly the same thing. You don't need the words. You know, we didn't have all these words a long time ago, and healers have always been around. And I didn't care when I worked to have them. I was curious afterwards, how does that connect? If I couldn't trace it. And I put my hands on her, and I made up my own system always. And I think what you're doing now, I wouldn't touch that, because that's perfection. That is, you're coming from your soul, your spirit, and your heart, and you're a healer. You don't need the language. The results speak for themselves for others. You're doing more work that way. I'm a researcher. So I've done research on autism and essential oils as a pilot study. I love research, which is why I look to the connections. But they don't really need to know all that unless you can prevent it.
Well, one of my healing guides is actually an Oriental acupuncturist, so I know when he comes in that I actually work with my fingertip, not the whole of my hand. And people have said that when I actually do work like that, it's very, very precise, very pinpoint heat, spots of heat they feel.
Yep.
And it's like acupuncture needles. So that's how. But he seems to come in with sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he does. But that's how it feels like my fingers become acupuncture needles. So
yeah,
it's whatever needed at the time.
Right. You don't. That's why I'm saying you don't even need to know what number, what point that is on acupuncture. You got it. You have it all. You don't. You're doing the work, and that's all that really ever matters. People love that. And the only other step I would ever take, and did take, is when people wanted to know how. And that's when you become a teacher to others about it, and you have to be able to break down the details to some degree, and then have them invent their own way, just give them a little structure. Because if you have it so beautifully and so natural, it is a gift, and it's a beautiful gift. And then you want to help others achieve their gifts. That's the only comment I would make about that. I wouldn't touch it.
Absolutely. Because
I just go with the flow. That's, as Leo knows me, I just go with the flow these days. I just don't need to know the answer, I don't bother. I just go with the flow and just get on with it.
Because what I was going to say, sometimes you get psychic artists and they produce beautiful work, and then a skeptic will come up and say, "Well, you've been trained, at a portrait gallery," which kind of takes the shine off it a little bit. But if you can't, in a normal state, draw to save your life, and then these wonderful masterpieces come out, that's a real statement. And I agree with you absolutely, Nancy. You don't need to know this stuff. You go where you're directed, and you give what you're given. And to me, that makes it all the more relevant.
Yes, I think so. That's a huge gift and a huge service to everybody. And the rest of it, the only reason I believe, teach and do it the way we do it is because we were called to empower other people who don't have the kind of gifts naturally that Nell has, that you have, And I think the beauty of teaching for us is we know then we have a legacy that will be carried forward, and that as long as we show people that they can do it themselves in their own style and their own way, it's an incredible thing because we watch everybody grow.
Absolutely. And we do all work different. We are all different. And, I've been campaigning for some time about schools that teach mediumship the same way. This is the routine. This is what we do. This is the end of it. And that's it. We're not the same, and it's wonderful to hear you voice that. Nell, we're just going to go into a break in a minute or two. So thank you so much again for contributing to the show. And we'll speak soon.
I looked up Nancy's website and I thought I had to phone in tonight because of the animal and the medical insurance. It's two areas that I don't get talked about very often, so I had to ask about questions.
It's a brilliant question, Otto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nell.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. It's really nice because we think along the same lines, and
yes,
I think teaching again is a gift in itself, isn't it? Because some people have all the knowledge in the world, whether it's engineering or something, and they're just not capable of transferring it to someone, whether the language is too complicated or whatever. And and I think particularly that applies to mediumship as well. So
yes, I'm with you 100%. I have seen and heard many, and it is also in a lot of fields. It's something we all know when we stop and think about it. The best people in any field are those who use a lot of their intuition and don't play the duplication game.
Absolutely. We're just going to go into a break, and we'll be straight back after this.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo. The host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
In the deep recesses of one's mind, there is a voice, a guiding light through the darkness, a connection to the other side.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me.
A pathway to spiritual that echoes with enlightenment. The Voice of Spirit.
The Voice of Spirit.
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Your journey starts here and now. With your host and connection to Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Hi, very, very warm welcome back. If you would like to look at my book Summerland, which is about the afterlife and a young boy called Alex, and just prior to, including his passing and what he finds in spirit, then you can find that on Amazon. And if you want to donate to the show, it's most welcome. Just go to KCOR, go to the archives. You'll find a button for the show, The Voice of Spirit, and click on that. Doesn't matter whether it's $1, $50, anything is very much appreciated. We've got Nancy Weber, fantastic medium and psychic detective on the show, and I've got to say it's been fascinating so far. And I don't often get a chance to say that, but it's been really brilliant. Nancy, welcome back.
Oh, Leo, thank you. I haven't smiled this much. And went, oh my God. When you meet like-minded people and we get to really hear each other, I'm going, it confirms for us. We're just people. And so we're confirming for each other that, yeah, I don't, as a healer, what Nell said, when people would ask me, what system did I learn? I said, it's called Nancy's system.
That's right, because we have a natural way of finding our way through, don't we? I went on a Reiki. Sorry, Nancy. I went on a Reiki course, Reiki 1, and I completed that. But I thought there's no point in going back for 2, and that wasn't ego, because what they were teaching me was something that was happening naturally, and I thought, if it's happening naturally, don't spoil it.
Well, here, when I do teach techniques in essential oils, particularly, there are some techniques that somebody else also created the technique. The person who created it said very clearly, because I've gone to several of his, he said, use your intuition. So when I've ever taught anything, I said, look, we're just giving you a structure, whether it's teaching how to develop your psychic abilities, it doesn't really matter. I draw, I do a host of, I've written songs, I play. There's no structure. The structure is within us. So if I'm teaching somebody, or if I took a course anywhere, just like you, I find that some of the things I've already got. I don't really need to repeat that. Sometimes I'll get a couple of glimpses of something that'll be an aha, and that'll be good. However, I warn people who wrote the book. The person who wrote the book created the system, whatever it is. The person who created the business or what. It's their unique take on it. You learn from that if you like structure, and then you go into your own thing about it. Yeah. Because the moment we touch somebody else, our energy is different, their energy is different every single day, every minute. So how, it's so funny. Listening to you is like listening to myself think.
Let's hope I don't have a senior moment.
Let's see. Senior moment. Don't ask me everybody's name all at once, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my kind of system in teaching is just saying that this is possible, that's possible. You work with it, and I'll show you where I'm picking up what you're picking up and perhaps what you're missing, and just kind of broaden the breadth of it a little bit. Because, we are all different. There's probably 8.5 billion of us here now. And it's amazing to think that the creative force has created us. In a sense, we're all identical. You can spot a human being 1 billion miles away, but we're so individual, and there's a magic in that. Yeah.
So much so.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Sorry, go on.
Years ago, there was the first book out by Gary Zukav called The Dancing Woolly Masters, which means the patterns of organic energy within each of us, to become masters of that.
Yeah.
And it made so much sense because the energy is everywhere and it defines itself in each unique form. And if we don't allow ourselves to dance to the light within us, in that sense, to be open and trusting and creative and play with it, like Nell talked about, like I know Suzanne does. If we don't do all that, then who are we doing?
Yeah.
We're doing what mommy and daddy said to be approved of, or somebody laughed at you once, and so you're looking eagerly to, we all have history, and the ancient Tibetans said it. People are very predictable if they live in their past. People who live in the moment have free will.
Yeah.
And I think that deals with also what you just said about healing and systems. And people who've developed systems, God bless them, they really have learned a lot, and they've done it. Dr. George Goodhart did it. However, he saw auras. He remembered past lives. I had dinner with him. He's talking to me. I'm going, why did you do it so duplicatable when you don't even do it that way on yourself? He said, because, right? And he said, because they are licensed professionals who don't know what else is. And yet, I knew some of them very well, and those who did very well in it used their intuition and created ideas themselves and broadened it, just like you said. Some people just need structure to get started because they're unsure, or, their lives were so practical and busy and grounded that they need a little help moving in the direction of being, Margaret said, we have to be 51% on earth and 49% spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes, you read headlines about the police and they go, psychics are rubbish and, this doesn't work, it doesn't exist. But almost every single one to a man, if that's not sexist, or to a woman, will tell you about the policeman's nose. There's an intuition. And you go, well, you've just shot yourself in the foot there, really.
Sure. Well, some of them are embarrassed or afraid and very political. So years ago, there was, in one of the stories, these are all cases I worked on years ago so that they were safe to tell. There were 3 missing children parentally abducted. And I worked with a sheriff's investigator and became friends also with the sheriff in the county, Johnny Fox. He was a great guy. And he was so good. And the sheriff's investigator, Lou Mastermont, was incredible. He started off totally skeptical, but cared about the case so badly that he would do anything to help find the children. So maybe a year or so later, Johnny calls me and says, the chief prosecutor in the county, stopped him in the hall and said, hey, I got a case I need help on. You want to ask that psychic you work with? And Johnny said, why don't you ask her yourself? And the prosecutor just looked at him funny. I already had a conversation with the chief prosecutor on a case that he said, we don't want shortcuts for our guys. He was sexist, by the way. And I said, would you care to tell the family of victims that? And do you know it's a teachable thing? So we had 2 extremes. And you have 2 extremes in law enforcement. You have people who know factually their intuition's going to work. They also have people they answer to. And some of the people they answer to will tell them it's not good for politics, it's not good for publicity, it's not good for something. And others will say, like George Duca was the boss for Gary Miko in a missing girl case, Rachel Domas. And Gary wanted to meet with me, and the prosecutor said no. And the captain turned around to him, Gary, quietly and said, go do whatever you want. Right. And that's the world, the difference just between people.
Yeah.
And I really do think, though, that the skeptics, the real hard skeptics, or I don't believe any of that, they're not. They're terrified of it. And they're terrified of looking like fools. They're terrified of losing their job. They're terrified people.
That's a conclusion that I've known of. It's kind of floated in the back of my mind for a long time. But in the last few months, that has formulated into something really quite sturdy, because it struck me that they are terrified, perhaps because of the way they've lived their lives, and there may be something to answer if there's something. But I know that a lot of them, they're university educated, and it's the system behind that says, this doesn't exist. We're paying you to learn. We're going to subsidize you. We're supporting you, and that's the view that you've got to take. So I agree wholeheartedly. I think some of them are terrified, and I think personally, we're all here for a reason. None of us are perfect. And we all do have our moments, especially as we're growing up and we're learning and that. And I do think that some of them think, I might be a terrible person. And, if I admit that there's something, that doesn't look good for me. But we're here to learn, aren't we? We all make mistakes.
Oh. And, I think the breakthroughs are what everyone's responsible to do. And we can have fear. It's just a different kind of fear, or it's placed differently. I just see that as what I've learned and what I can tell anybody who ever gets entree into working with police. Please act very professional. Don't put your ego involved at all in any sense. You're part of a team. And how I always phrased it, when I didn't know them and they didn't know me, I'd walk in and say, I know you're not familiar with how I work, so here it goes. I am a part of a team. I am a piece of the puzzle. I might be able to get a couple of little things that might help you. I have no clue before I start, and I don't want you to tell me anything except confirm or deny until I've done enough of it, and then you can fill in if you so choose. However, I understand it is not anything you're used to. So I'm going to look like I don't care about any of it when I'm working, because I cannot get emotional, just like when you work. Same thing. And then I just do it, whatever it is, whether it's photographs, and doesn't really matter what it is. So I've had some very interesting conversations with, and that's how I got started, when they saw what I did and it was useful. They brought me every unsolved murder case in the town and opened up the books. It's been very strange. Once they trust you, you're one of them beautifully. And I have a badge that's gorgeous.
I was wondering about that, because that's on the front of the book, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's my badge. It was made by, as a matter of fact, it came because of a couple of things that happened. The man who made it for me had it made. It's pure. I think it's pure gold. I never check. Oh. I don't want to know. Yeah. He was a commissioner who I helped him when he had a supposedly fatal disease, and he lived many years thereafter. So I have to put that aside and can't talk about what I did. Yeah. And the other part was he brought me in on a case I'm not allowed to talk about because of where I went. Yeah. And that's how I got the badge.
I think
Short
it's
story.
I think it's just wonderful. There was a psychic, and I can't remember her name, but she was on a show, and they were filming her live, and I think it was the desert somewhere. I don't know whether it was the Nevada desert, but there was something like 900 acres of land, and she went and she stood on a spot and she said, this is where the person is buried. Now, that person was alive. They'd hidden them, but she was actually standing on the cover, and I think it's wonderful because, you can say to skeptics, well, go work that one out. I mean, they'll always come up with something, won't they? But
not really. Stop and think about it, because if you can find an analogy for them about energy, just pure energy, and if they're not scientists, and a lot of them aren't, and I'll say to them, so explain to me how you flip a switch and get your light. Tell me about the conversion of energy into light. And they look at me lost. And I go, well, energy is everywhere, right? Yeah, it's how we use it. Leonardo da Vinci said it in a letter when asked how he could do everything so well. And he said, I focus the light in a direction.
Oh, I've never been aware of that quote. That is wonderful.
It's in a letter he wrote. I have one of those big, massive books on Da Vinci, and I read everything I can about him. I love the idea that he understood that. Also, of course, he was incredibly gifted. He understood that it is all intention and focus. And that's why when Nell talked about it, when Suzanne talks, when we both chatted with her, everyone who has the heart and the intention and the focus, like laser beam focus, gets results. It doesn't mean we're always the person to do it. We don't always know the results. So I have one other thing I'd like to share with people.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I used to work in New York City every week, once a week, and I'd go in and see clients. And one day in the morning, a half-hour session, the woman, after 15 minutes, had a very thick French accent and said to me, "This is not what I came for. I already know that about me." And I said, "Okay, we'll stop." And she just paid for the 15 minutes. I gave her the tape. She said, "I don't need it." I said, "Well, throw it up then, please." So the last part, and then I was glad that I had a whole 15-minute break. Did not care.
Yep.
I understood that I cannot judge how she feels about it or what I did. The last person sits down with me and said, "Last year you gave me the best reading I've ever had. And everything you said, I dealt with. And now I'm back for more. I love this." And the same feeling I had for the first one, I had for the last. And I was very grateful. I walked out thinking, yay. Yeah, not getting your ego involved in the work. You're not judging them. You're not judging yourself. That took a lot to get there for me. 2 years later, I get a call from a woman with a serious French accent.
You might have been right the first time. Freudian slip.
Maybe, because it was very thick. And she said, "I don't know if you remember me." I go, "Sure, you had 15 minutes. She said, "I know, I'm so sorry. I've been listening to the tape and it's been very useful." I said, "That's good." She said, "Would you ever let me come back?" I said, "Of course," because there was no agenda. I think the one thing that we find with skeptics, they're still judging themselves.
Yeah.
If you don't judge yourself, you find you have a lot more than you thought you did about your gifts.
Absolutely. I think they take a lot of things on face value, and as you said as well, I think there's a fear there of accepting this. I went through a phase of, and again, my ex-wife is half Irish, and it seemed to be particularly Irish people, and Spirit would give them something, and they go, "I know that." And give them something else, "I know that." And this went on several times, and at the end of it, I said to them, what you've got to think about is, how do I know that? Because it just went completely over their heads. "I know that, you're not telling me anything different.
Right, I know. Well, we get that from I think that's true of a lot of people who are looking for something else. So there's a comment I have, but before I do, because I know at the half hour we'll break, I'd like whoever's watching, listening, however you're doing this, get a pen and paper for when we come back, because I have a gift for anybody who does a couple of things. So,
fantastic.
And what you just said, when people are looking for proof, I share with them the proof is not about the name. It's not about what they're wearing. It is more about who they are, and do you recognize who they are? Not what they wear, not what they think, whatever. You want to know who they are because you want to know how they are doing. Just like you said, your book, little Alex.
Yeah.
People on the other side, there's a national and international organization called Helping Parents Heal. And it is parents of all children at any age died. And they bring on mediums a lot. And they bring in social workers and trauma recovery experts and anything that can help. And one of the things I tell people, when you're missing someone, a sacred space and bridge the gap, write letters to them as if they're just, still here, that you're just writing. And eventually you will feel responses that won't necessarily feel like responses, except, and they may, but if they don't, it's going to be suddenly they're more here than they were. You'll feel them fully sending to you something. It's got to be them, because you wouldn't think that way. They would.
Absolutely. One of the things I teach my students, and I'm sure you've met this, they all go through a phase where they go, do you know, I'm making this up. And the first response from Spirit, the first time that was asked, was, your mind cannot surprise itself. It cannot hatch a little plan and spring it on you. So if something enters your mind and it surprises you, it comes from an external mind. And when I heard myself saying this, and we remember things because they're useful, I thought to myself, it's beautifully simple.
Yes, it is. I ask them where imagination comes from. What do you think? Do you know the difference? So I also tell them to write down their tuning in, because they won't know if it's real or not. Not for quite a while, if they're learning, and to be an inner detective. And I'll save that for after the break on inner detective, because I find that so many people watch crime shows or psychic shows or whatever, that term might make sense to them about how they can treat themselves.
Fantastic. And I want to bring up the question of predictions and what you think about those and that after the break as well. So I'm sure you're interested. Come back. We're going to listen to Nancy, and we'll be straight back after this.
This is the voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
To understand something spiritually, you must experience it. And in order to experience it, you have to experience it in your imagination.
Explore with us by calling 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Everything that now exists was once imagined. Therefore, everything that is going to exist must first be imagined.
Back with your guide to spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Leo Bonomo.
After these brief words from our sponsors.
Thursday nights are about to get weird on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Join hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz as they go exploring the bizarre. Jet across the cosmos with two of the most electrifying paranormal researchers in the known universe. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Exploring the bizarre takes you deep within the world of the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology. It's time to take back the night with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. Exploring the bizarre. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
based on the concept that Plato simply called the Great Year, where evidence points to our world civilization being far older than we've been taught. The Emissary, Book 1 by Tamra Veach and Rennie DeFazio, embraces this concept while blending elements of fantasy, reincarnation, action-adventure, and ancient secrets all together, along with our real-world history, to create an epic tale that will leave you asking the question, is this real? The Emissary, Book 1, now available for 99 cents for a limited time at Amazon.com.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie, available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
You are listening to the all-new KCOR, The Core. KCOR, broadcasting from Las Vegas, Nevada, to the entire universe. Your journey from the land of the living to the afterlife starts here. The Weird Tales Radio Show, Thursdays 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Your weekly fix for ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, and folklore. Hosted by the sometimes werewolf hunter, Charles Christian, and his co-host, Janie Christian. The Weird Tales Radio Show is an off-the-wall, fabulously atmospheric, and radio magazine formatted show, rated as one of the UK's most listened to podcasts. If you're a fan of the weird and unusual, then tune in if you dare. Thursdays 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. The Weird Tales Radio Show. The one show that takes your fears of the unknown and spins them into reality. The Weird Tales Radio Show on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where the weird and the strange come out to play.
Welcome back to the Voice of Spirit, your connection to the other side.
There's no accidents in this universe. We all show up here with a purpose. There's an intelligence that is a part of everything and everyone, and all of us are connected to it.
Connect with us on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Even better, join us live in our chat room at KCORradio.com. To get a free reading during the show, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Worldwide callers, use Skype name KCOR Radio. And now, inspirational clairvoyant medium, psychic, and your connection to the spirit, the host of the Voice of Spirit, Leo Bonomo.
Very, very warm welcome back, and we're in the last segment of the show, and as always, 2 hours just flies by. Little test here. If you were listening to Nancy, and she said that you need a chance to grab a piece of paper and a pen. If you haven't done and you've just joined us, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, because Nancy's got something very interesting for you. Welcome back, Nancy. I find it, bless you. I find it very interesting about the psychic detective thing and what we were talking about earlier, you know, in being prepared for it. My youngest daughter, Daniela, she's hoping to become not a CSI exactly, but working with the police. And, you know, she's already attended a few autopsies and that. And, you know, she was quite surprised, not intimidated, but quite surprised by some of the things that, you know, she encountered during autopsies, and she handled it very well. She's fascinated by this.
Good for her.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, the work that you do, you can influence lives in so many ways, because it's not just solving a crime. It's not just finding the perpetrator. I think it changes lives, because people realise, you know, whatever they may have believed, there is something in this, and it's such a valuable thing that you do. So I just want to thank you for that, and I'm sure many people do. No problem. Okay, you've got a little test for people.
Well, it's not a test. I just want them to write down www.Nancy.
Yep.
I'll spell out the middle name, O-R, like rabbit, L-E-N, like night, Weber, WEBER.com, / this is a private landing page for your listeners, L-E-O, Leo, it's one word though, everything I'm spelling, L-E-O-S for Sam, VIP. So it's Leo's VIP. If you do that and click on contact, and for any reason, if it doesn't work, Leo, is there a way they can reach out to you? Because I'll email you the correct link just in case.
Fantastic. Yes, they can get me on info at leo-bonomo.com. So that's Leo- or hyphen BON for Norman, OM for mother, O.com, and they can do that there as well. It's interesting
that's okay. They'll receive a private link in a few days, and that private link will give them a little private class. And then they will receive notification when my ebook and book is on Amazon if they're not in the U.S. If they're in the U.S., they can text 973-922-1124. 973-922-1124. And all you have to do is Leo VIP, LEOS VIP. And you'll also be part of it.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. I need
comments from everyone. Leo, I would love to interview you at some point privately, because I'd like to put you in my next book, The Inner Journeys Guidebook. There are things you say that I think the way you say it will make it very clear to people in their development. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, bless you. I'm really honoured. Yes, and that would, that would be a great honour. I don't know what to say, which is not good on radio, is it? Because that's all we've got. But I'm really honoured. Oh, bless you. It's interesting that you put Leo's with an S, VIP, rather than Leo VIP. And the reason that I say that is my middle name is Secondo, which means Leo the Second. So it's Leo S. For no, bless.
Yo entiendo mucho. Gracias.
Bless you. Fantastic. So, we're going to talk a little bit, aren't we, about predictions, and I think we have a slightly different approach to this. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you feel about that and your approach to it.
Okay. For a long time, I did a lot of predictions, and I started to wonder how I am influencing, because I always had enough time. I don't do cold readings in public for a lot of reasons. It doesn't matter. So when I did predictions and things would come up, I could take the time and look at, well, what is the pattern being created here? And if that's a pattern you like and you like the outcome, that's cool. If you don't like the outcome, let's look at the pattern you created or are creating. Mm-hmm. So the other part of that is knowing how to graciously accept an outcome. So I've chosen to, whatever it is, because we're not alone, as we say. We're unique, we're all individualized, yet we're not alone. We're all connected. Everything is. So what I see sometimes may be an influence of many involved in a prediction, like political predictions, sports predictions. I've done a lot of different ones. And at racehorses, my parents used to take me, and my mother would take me, and even before I couldn't get in, and she'd leave me at the gate and just yell out the numbers. So So I'm familiar with predictions. My concern about it is not to do them. It is that the person getting the prediction done for them understands free will, and that they don't attach to everything the other person says as ipso facto, as if it is exactly that. There's a danger in that for both the giver and the receiver. The receiver gives up accountability and responsibility for the outcomes. And then the imprint may be so strong because they are so willing to believe this that they give the person some of their power. And that can actually cause energy leaks, I believe. And I have felt them and realized, wait a minute, I don't want you believing everything I say. So I choose what I predict for. When somebody's going through illness, I want to see ahead. I don't always say it until I see enough of it so that I can give them ideas, information, some how-tos, some practical things, spiritual things, healing ideas, lay on hands, whatever. So in that sense, it was like, here's a situation where I gave a reading, and in the middle of the reading, I see a young boy, 21 years old, 20, that mattered, and on a motorcycle with no helmet, and crash and burn and died before his 21st birthday. So I'm looking at that image while I'm talking to her, and I'm not saying a word to her about it. And then casually I say, you have a son? She said, yes. Okay. So a little more, and then I'm waiting, and I keep asking the image and the concept of what I'm seeing questions until I get something that I feel I can use. I said to her, does he have a motorcycle? She said, yeah. I said, I bet he doesn't wear a helmet. I didn't say I see that. I said, I bet. She said, no, I can't get him to wear one. I said, you want to make a bet with me? She said, what? I said, you know how crazy that is. She said, I know. I said, good. You have his license plate? She said, yeah. I said, you call the police and tell them every time he goes out without a helmet, you're calling them, you want them to stop him immediately and ticket him. Tell your husband, you and he will not pay for the tickets. And I said, you had to call me every month until his 21st birthday. And then she said, why? I said, because I want to hear that he's okay. He's crazy. So I didn't tell her it was a prediction.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he went 3 times, got 3 tickets, had to pay for them, got disgusted, started putting his helmet on. 21st birthday came, 22nd birthday came, and I said, you can stop calling.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. That was such a strong thing for me, and I was concerned with how, while somebody else I saw, and he looked at me and he said, you don't want to tell me. I said, well, I'm a little concerned that you haven't been to a doctor in years, and he was a physician. I said, I think you know what's going on. He said, yes, I believe I do too. So tell me what you see. I said, you're at end-stage cancer. It's metastasized. He said, I believe so. I said, would you go to somebody and at least put your affairs in order? It turned out he had a lot of people who loved him, and they would have been devastated if they didn't have time to share with him.
Yeah.
So everyone's different. I'm saying there's not one answer. I don't have an answer on predictions. I pick and choose, and then I question the veracity of me saying something. Is it for their good? Is it not? That kind of thing.
This is kind of what I went back to with common sense, because years ago when people trained, it was 5-6 years before you got anywhere near a public platform, and the people with no common sense were weeded out. That doesn't happen nowadays, So I
interesting.
think. Yeah, and I think that what you're doing in that is, you're making that judgment. And it's the kind of thing I do. I mean, sometimes you see something, and as you say, you can't show emotion. Your face doesn't change, the thoughts come in, you see what's happening. And that you either have to deal with it in the way that you've dealt with it, or you just don't pass it on, and so... one of my great things is there is a huge responsibility with mediumship. And again, I think it's something that's not passed on. I mean, I've seen things since I was 2, but I still went for training. Hopefully, I've still got some common sense rattling around. But, you still sometimes need training to sort of formalise things and know how to do public speaking and that kind of thing.
But I think, and going back to what we said before, common sense is also empathy. If you have empathy, you're not going to blurt out things in a way that will be painful to the other person. You will look for ways to give it to them if you're meant to give it to them.
Yeah.
Knowing things doesn't mean that we have to tell everybody what we know. I don't believe that. I believe there are times that, we don't. So I said something to you earlier about the inner detective. And it's just something that, like your daughter, if she's going in for any form of forensics or law enforcement, it's fascinating. I find that the best people ask themselves a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Is it past, present, or future? If it's past, is it a couple of minutes, hours, days, weeks? So there is a scene in the book. Gary Miko is a detective, retired now, PI. Love him. He was a great friend for many years. And he said he learned to soak up the scene. He put down his camera. He put down all his equipment. He walked in. He said, it's not Nancy's psychic ability. It's her ability to be present in the place, wherever she is, and just feel everything and sense it. However, so he calls it soaking up the scene. And he walked through a scene, and he said he finished a burglary case in like a half hour, 15 minutes, something like that, crazy, because when a name popped up from somebody talking, it just felt right. He didn't know what that meant. It just felt right. He said it, and sure enough, that everything meshed. He was able to solve the case in no more than half an hour, the entire case, from walking in the door to finish. And that's what I mean. That inner detective, that willingness to take a little risk, to trust yourself, to feel what resonates with you, to ask things inside you and outside, not just there. I kept asking myself questions about the kid on the motorcycle. Constantly. What is needed? And finally, I got a response inside me, watching an image of ticketing him, and then him having to pay, and that made common sense to me. So all I'm suggesting is there's no one answer for anything, right? It's not just carte blanche. I say everything I can see, or predict everything. I can see every prediction come my way. I tell. I consider the other being involved in that. There's some that we know, and we know they're not ready to hear it.
Absolutely. And I think it raised an interesting point for me, because there are people that won't make a move in any direction without some sort of guidance. And it's really not healthy. But they're constantly on to mediums and psychics and phone lines. And it's really unhealthy, isn't it? Because they're not giving themselves a chance to think.
Well, I think in today's world, we do have a lot also going for everyone, where there are so many of us all over the place who are happily showing ideas for their own self-growth, self-empowerment. I mean, I take them, I listen, I read, I work on it, learning years ago that every thought, every word forms an equation in my brain, affects my next moment, it affects what I believe. So I look at that and go, well, now we have so many books on it. We have workshops on it. We have great folks teaching everything. There are changes, and they're coming, and we just need a lot more of it. And that, I think, one of the jobs we hold, if we have gifts, is to empower others who come to us and give them. That's one of the reasons I like certain kind of tools.
Yeah.
I want everybody to have their own self and not need anything. On the other hand, we need food, we need a bed, we need a few things anyhow.
Yeah.
So I've always looked for tools. On my website are free music that comes from the research and with permission from the authors from Super Learning. And it is the actual beginning of all the hemisync and bihemispheric and all that. Oh. They all came from that research. And so I've created those with permission and meditations, and they're free on blogs. I've got 2 different blogs on the music, so you can just, a gift of music for everyone is called. And I've been using them for years. Those are tools in my book. Essential oils I use as tools of mine. And when you and I talk privately, I'd like to share some things about what I see with you and ideas. So I like to put power in the hands of everybody because that's what's missing. Real power, not the power of the crazy, but the power of feeling uniquely strong and capable and love life and look forward to every moment. And sometimes that takes doing because of lack of health, lack of education, lack of opportunities, so many things that are not allowed or distributed fairly in this world. Yes. And so change, right? And I think one of the gifts we're given is the opportunity to share it with the world in ways that they can hear and maybe take some glimpses into themselves and empower and realize that everybody has self-esteem issues.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody. You know, well, we've become in some ways, I think we are changing, but we've become in some ways so subservient, haven't we, to, you know, especially politicians saying, this is what we're going to do and you're going to follow. And, you know, we as a society, we believe everything they say. I know we're changing an awful lot now. But it's
not
like
in this country anymore, not my country anymore.
No.
Everybody's coming out in the street and going, hell no.
And I think it's great. You know, I've said this many times. Yeah. I've said this many times on the show. You know, I saw Donald Trump being elected and being president. I knew that was going to happen about a year and a half before that happened. And my feeling is it's a good thing because he's getting everybody at odds and it's making people think. And it's making other countries think about their interaction. So I think eventually every country in the world is going to say there's not going to be one dominant force anymore. It's going to be truly democratic. So, you know, it all has its repercussions, doesn't it? And bad things sometimes happen, but we get there eventually.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it is, as I said earlier, it is the infection that's come to the surface. Yeah. And he represents the worst of a lot. And it's important that people understand that he's not alone in this.
Yeah.
There are people, he's not the only person doing this. He's one who's gotten away with it to a degree. But if you lived where I lived in New York at the time when he was young, we all knew what he was like. He had a terrible reputation. He always did. We understood. However, the fact that enough people allow things like that to occur tells us it's been going on politically for a very long time in many countries.
Absolutely.
I applaud New Zealand. New Zealand, the day that happened, 1, 2, 3, they banned all those assault weapons, everything. 1, 2, 3, no argument, no discussion, it's done. So that tells us that there are pockets of spiritual purpose in politics that are still around. And I applaud it, and I'm grateful for that. And I know that's why Trump is in this place, to break it all up, finally.
Absolutely. And, again, it is kind of painful. I suppose it's like a bit of shrapnel. You've got to dig it out to make it better.
It's getting worse. It is horrible. It's been horrible in this country for a lot of things. Whether it's healthcare, death of children, death of anybody walking a street. Now, we live in a very crazy world, and I know it. And yet, we're not that close to it sometimes. And yet, we all have to participate, no matter what, in seeing to it that we make the change, because we're the ones who are responsible, whatever we vote or not. We have to put our 2 cents in. We have to make a commitment to care, whether it's sitting home and writing a letter to whoever, whatever change. I think being psychic is intention, focus, and heart. And I think it's the same thing for everything in life. We have to have all those present to make a difference here. And too many people have lost their lives over the fact that we all haven't made the difference we need to make here. Just like so much else, Vietnam, we go back to the 70s. Absolutely. Yeah. It's been absolutely fascinating to speak with you. I know a lot of people are going to listen into this and take great interest. It's gratifying to meet someone of like mind, and I know you've already made a tremendous change in the world, and that will continue. But we'll speak soon. God bless.
You've been listening to Leo Bonomo, the host of The Voice of Spirit. Live every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the show, guests, and host of The Voice of Spirit, or to book a private reading, please visit leo-bonomo.com. That's leo-bonomo.com. Your connection to the other side is just a phone call away. The Voice of Spirit.
It is amazing, is it not?
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.